there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another incredible installment from very high above all the bombastic morons in the Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. As you can see, we're back in the brand new studio. Well, I guess it's not really brand new anymore. I mean, it's at least a couple of months old. But I do have a bone to pick with you, Agent 29. While you were off gallivanting around the state, I was here working. Now, I don't want to hear any of this working for the people, doing the people's work business. I was here taking care of everything. So, in all seriousness, I'm glad to have you back. And thankfully, you're not in amongst all the liberals.
Well, it is good to be back. Good to be back in the thin air.
Yeah, finally.
At lower altitude.
Welcome to the program, my friends. We have got a big show planned. Not big in the sense of anything groundbreaking. Well, I mean, it is Cowboy State Politics, and of course, there's groundbreaking news here, but big in the sense of the dearth of information that came out yesterday and today. And we're going to begin with Israel. I guess
I was just going to ask, is it number 32 big?
Yeah, well, it is number 32 big. You see, Cowboy State Politics is no longer number 36 on the list of 100 podcasts you need to listen to, nor is it number 34 or number 33. Now, this show is number 32 on the list of the 100 podcasts you got to listen to in 2025. So, and when you're on a list like that, every step you go up is a much bigger deal. And so I'm amazed.
Yeah, when you start rubbing shoulders with Charlie Kirk and Al Vesta.
Well, he's like number 12 or something.
Yeah, well, we're getting there.
Yeah. But still, number 32, absolutely incredible. Go ahead and try that Cow Pie and Amy Edmonds and everybody else who thinks they have a podcast. But anyway, so let's begin. Well, and I should probably tell you this before we get into today's show. We've got a video of one of Agent 29's committee meetings where old Augie, Senator Ogden Driscoll, just turns into, it is a tax-mageddon with that guy. And so we've got a video where we're going to go through it and kind of let Agent 29 vent a little bit.
He didn't turn into anything, but he sure exposed who he is.
Oh, fair enough. I stand corrected. He is the same that he's always been, but he's got some amazing things to say. Evidently, that you are given a tax break. And anytime you are given a tax break, that costs the government money, according to Senator Ogden Driscoll. Of course, the government doesn't have its own money. It's all yours. And any money that it does have is taken through theft out of your pocketbook. So anyway, we've got a fairly long video to show you. We're going to do a little stop and start. So Agent 29 can fill us in on what all happened there. But the big news is we now have a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. And now they're calling it the 12-day war, which is, if you're not a history buff like I am, That's an homage to the 6-Day War that Israel absolutely kicked the crap out of pretty much all of their neighbors in 6 days. Well, this is the 12-Day War, and I don't think that Iran ever really posed that significant of a threat to Israel. But after the U.S. struck those 3 nuclear sites in Iran, they didn't have anything left, and so about the only thing they could do is go to the table.
I'm told that the plan behind that is Trump's going to build a new golf course, and he's got the first 3 holes lined up.
Yeah, well, I mean, that might be. I mean, if you're into desertscape golf courses, I'm not. I already spend way too much time in the sand, so I would prefer not to have any more. But let's begin with the Times of Israel. Israel says it agreed to a bilateral ceasefire with Iran, but will respond forcefully to any violation. This is from the Times of Israel. And I quote, Israel confirms that it has agreed to the U.S. proposal for a bilateral ceasefire with Iran, but will respond forcefully to any violations of that truce. And of course, yesterday, there was a bit of a dust-up in the press pool. I guess not in the press pool, but the first thing that happened when the ceasefire was announced is Israel pretty much just unloaded on Iran, dropped pretty much whatever they had, and that did not make the commander-in-chief too happy. So if we can, Ken, let's throw this video up here. Just listen to it. Here we go.
Happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Absolutely incredible. Can you tell that old Trumpy was a little irritated yesterday morning? I mean, it's we all know that our leaders get frustrated, and definitely we know that Trump is absolutely capable of that. But to actually see it, you know, I was a little bit shocked. Usually he's a little bit more tempered than that. But I guess when he's helped negotiate a peace between Iran and Israel, and the very first thing that happens is they try to unload a whole bunch of bombs on Israel, well, I can see how that would irritate him. But back to the piece here. The statement also announces that for the first time, for the first time that another senior nuclear scientist was killed. Even in the past day, quoting, the IDF dealt major blows to regime targets in the heart of Tehran, eliminating hundreds of operatives, the regime's oppression apparatus, and assassinated another senior nuclear scientist. Well, no credit for grammar there. Israel thanks President Trump and the United States for their support in defense of and participation in eliminating the Iranian nuclear threat. Well, one of the big things here is that Donald Trump did what pretty much every other president has promised to do, but has been unable to follow through on. And I mean, it's amazing how many presidents. Actually, you know what, Ken? I just looked up at Fox News and Trump speaking. Let's go ahead and pipe that in.
Like you can't get into the tunnels. They just put that over. That just came out. They can't. There's nothing. There's no way you can even get down. The whole thing is collapsed in a disaster. And I think all of the nuclear stuff is down there because it's very hard to remove. And we did it very quickly. When they heard we were coming, it was, you can't move it. Very hard, very dangerous actually to move too. And they also knew we were coming, so I don't think too many people want to be down there knowing we're coming. With the bunker busters, as we call them, we're the only ones that have them. We have the best equipment, best nuclear equipment, and we have the best equipment in the world. And by the way, we can't forget our submarine, which was out there, submarines actually, but submarine was out there. We shot 30 rockets into
Tomahawk cruise missiles,
an area, every single one of them. I think it was almost 400 miles away, I think, Pete, right? 400 and long. It was in the ocean, long ways away. And we shot a total of 30. Every single one of them hit within 9 inches from where it was supposed to be. It took out a lot. Because we didn't do just 4, though. We did 2 others in addition. which hadn't been completely destroyed. So we hit them with a submarine from hundreds of miles away. Amazing, just amazing equipment. Greatest submarines in the world. Nobody's even close. They're 20 years behind us when it comes to submarine technology.
Tremendous.
So that's one, and the other was from the Atomic Energy Commission, and they have about 3 or 4 of them now coming in from atomic energy commissions from various places. But the one that we have that just came out, we released it a little while ago, was from the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, but numerous of them are getting to see the site, and the site has been demolished.
So anyway, the president of the United States, and that's one of the things that amazed me about this whole thing. It wasn't just a couple of planes, a couple of B-2 bombers. What I heard is it was over 100 different aircraft that were coordinated pretty much with no radio contact of any of them. And if you think about it, so you've got B-2 bombers that were headed towards Guam. That was the ruse. Then there were other B-2 bombers that were headed east. And then they had to coordinate all the refueling on the way, because it was a 36-hour flight to Iran. And then you had the submarines that were readying with the cruise missiles, and you had to coordinate all of that. Now, the cruise missiles, and I think he said that they were fired 4 hours ahead of the strike on Iran. And just the absolute coordination with it. I mean, you got a ton of moving parts there, and just I think it was absolutely incredible to read through everything that went into it.
I wonder if the Guam thing, I wonder if that was a ruse or if that was a message to China. You know, China looking for an opportunity to do something with Taiwan. What an opportunity when we have our arms full.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe, but everything is a message, and it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, when you're talking international politics, every single thing is a message, and certainly if you're going to send the same equipment to Guam, purportedly armed with the same armaments, then whatever other countries are on the way there and past, I mean, they're definitely going to get that message. But this whole thing, I mean, it came together rather quickly. So we strike Iran, and their nuclear sites go boom, and then Iran, and this this is a fascinating part of this, they respond, and they allegedly destroyed a U.S. base in Qatar. Not even kidding. Here is what they're claiming here. Let me just go ahead and let's go here and from current slide. Throw this up there, Ken. So it says Iran's Supreme National Security Council, quote, "Our forces destroyed the U.S. air base in Qatar," or Qatar, however you want to pronounce it. Both ways are correct. "In response to America's attack against our nuclear facilities. This action does not pose any threat to our friendly and brotherly country, Qatar." Well, that's not exactly true, because there are some reports that Iran contacted Qatar ahead of time and told them what they were going to do. And throw this one up there. So Libs of TikTok posted, quote, "The New York Times, Iran coordinated the attack with Qatar to minimize casualties." Quote, "Iran symbolically needed to strike back at the U.S. and allow all sides an exit ramp. And so Iran has to show their people that they are responding to what's happening, in the strikes on their nuclear facilities. But it just shows you the level of propaganda that the regime in Tehran is able to push out to their people. Now, I brought up yesterday on the show, I showed you a piece of or an article from the Iran Times, and their slogan. You're not going to believe this, Ken. Their slogan is "Straight Truth" from the Times of Tehran. So, I mean, it is a propaganda operation, and
you keep on using that word.
I know. Incredible. But it's no different than Pyongyang. I mean, there's all sorts of stories about Kim Jong-un putting out articles where he played 9 holes of golf and made a hole-in-one on 8 of them. And on the 9th one, he birdied it. So all sorts of ridiculous propaganda that come out from dictatorial regimes. But it also shows you what you can do if you absolutely cut off any access to the internet. And they did that, like right after Israel started striking Iran. They shut down the internet inside the country, and they did that so that any protesters couldn't coordinate. So it was an attempt to tamp down any sort of dissent. But John Solomon has a piece out in Just the News entitled Trump Vance Used Qatar to Negotiate a Surprise Ceasefire with Iran. And I quote, Trump called the Emir of Qatar, telling him he could get Israel to agree to a ceasefire and asked the Emir's help in getting Iran to commit to the same. Just hours after it was attacked, Qatar helped President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance negotiate Tuesday night's surprise ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Just the News confirmed. The U.S. government used the Qataris as intermediaries with Tehran after Trump spoke to the country's leader. The conversation occurred just hours after Iran launched a missile barrage at a U.S. Air Force base near Doha. An attack was repelled by anti-ballistic missiles. So a couple of things going on here. Tehran had to respond, but they contacted the Qataris just to tell them what was going on so that they could prepare. So I'm going to lob a bunch of cruise missiles at you, but don't. I mean, I'm not going after you. I just have to do it. So just knock them down. Here's where they're coming. So all of this is a dog and pony show, and it's an attempt by the regime in Tehran to maintain power, because right now they really don't have anything going for them. They've lost their only bargaining chip with the international community with when their nuclear sites were destroyed. And that's another thing that's pissing me off. The media's response to this whole thing, that right after the strikes on Iran, CNN, PMSNBC, well, you know, we're the nuclear sites actually destroyed. I mean, they could probably resume production of enriched uranium at any time. Absolutely doubting anything that, you know, the president was saying. And of course, you know, I guess to some degree that's their job, you know, trust but verify. But all of it is really an attempt to try to still maintain some sort of attack on President Trump. But it didn't really work. And now we've got a peace agreement, or at least a ceasefire, between Iran and Israel. But there again, you know, Iran really doesn't have anything going for it anyway.
Speaking of didn't really work, there was a movement, I forget his name, the representative that wanted to impeach Trump. And 100 Democrats crossed over and said, no, we're not going to play that game.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Okay, so and I talked about this yesterday on the program, and actually I did a whole podcast about it on Monday's edition. I should have prepped some of that sound for today, but to give you the long and the short of it, so the War Powers Act of 1973 says that the president, if he's going to go attack someplace, he has to notify Congress within 48 hours. Basically, it's just a book report. Hey, this is what we did. And then within 60 to 90 days, he has to ask Congress for a declaration of war. So, you know, of course, the liberals are saying, well, he didn't ask for a declaration of war. That's because he doesn't have to, because the authorization for the use of military force that Congress passed for Afghanistan is still in effect. They never repealed it. So any of those idiots in Congress that are claiming, well, he didn't ask us. He didn't have to, because you haven't done your job. And I don't follow this guy too much, but Charlemagne the God, I object to his name. I don't watch his liberal show, but he's kind of moving over to the side of Trump. And he, I think it may have been yesterday's program, maybe the day before, but he called out the Democrats as hypocrites. Go ahead and play cut number 3. Listen to this.
This is one of those times where politicians sound like hypocrites, because Mark Kelly is right. Presidents should get congressional approval, but there have been a bunch of presidents who have ordered strikes without congressional approval. Barack Obama did it against Libya. Joe Biden ordered strikes in Iraq and Syria without congressional approval. Bill Clinton did it to Kosovo, I think you pronounce it. So presidents ordering military action without congressional approval has become pretty routine. So is it always a thing when they do it? I'm just asking. I don't know.
No. Well, this is where those articles of impeachment come up, and that's why House Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she actually says that President Trump's decision to strike Iran could lead to impeachment.
So why didn't I'm just saying? So why didn't it lead to impeachment for everybody else?
Yeah.
What always kills me about this, and like the people on The View.
Oh, we're gonna get to them.
Who cares what you think number one, you don't have any great information. And somebody could say the same thing back to us. You know, who cares
Sure.
what you think? You don't have any information. So there's that. But we're not sitting there yet on national news being interviewed. And that's what I don't understand. And you see it down at the state level, too. When something happens, the press has the 3 or 4 go-to people they're going to go to.
Every time.
And Gail Simmons.
All the time.
Who is she? Why do we want to hear from her? If something happened in appropriation, for example, why not go to the person who was involved with it?
No.
Anyway,
The press always goes to those
Had
people
to get that off my chest.
Oh, we'll get to Gail Simmons in a little while. I don't want to, we're having such a good program starting off. We're back in the saddle, back in the studio, having a good time. I don't want to tarnish it quite yet with Gail Simmons. Well, anyway, so that was Charlemagne the God. And the reason I bring him up is he has pretty much been on the left, though recently he's kind of been seeing the light. I mean, it's a lot of the arguments that the Democrats are making just really, I mean, they're last ditch, throwaway, shotgun approach arguments that, I mean, they just don't really know what they're doing.
Well, he's going to follow the crowd. He's going to try to stay popular.
Well, and that's part of it too. That's actually where I was going next. That a lot of this too is this sort of, licking your finger and finding out which way the wind blows. Another good example of that is Jake Tapper and his stupid book. I've got a piece about him later on in the stack of stuff, but everybody knew that Biden was off his rocker, and we all knew that the press was lying to us. Well, now Jake Tapper puts out a shocker book and says that, well, here's the tell-all book. Biden really was out of his mind. Well, no S, Sherlock. I mean, obviously we knew that. But with Charlemagne, it's interesting. I mean, he was the guy that Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for Biden, then you ain't black. That's where that whole soundbite came from, was in an interview with this Charlemagne guy. And, maybe this is a bit of, going with the wind, but I don't know. Let me give you another example. Play cut number 4.
Very, very interesting on the home front. The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to deport convicted.
So, I mean, this is a different topic, but I just want to give you another example of this, I guess for all intents and purposes, liberal commentator kind of coming maybe to the middle or coming to our side. Go ahead and play it.
Criminals to so-called third countries, even if they have no connection to the nation. Convicted criminals. I did not say anything about migrants, immigrants, just convicted criminals. So places like South Sudan and Venezuela are included on this list. And this puts a hold on a federal judge's ruling that said that those being deported should have a chance to bring claims that they would be at risk for persecution or death if sent to another country. All 3 liberal judges on the court dissented. So
when you say convicted criminals, like if I say if I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan,
say it.
And I commit. I'm asking. I don't know. And I commit a crime.
No, that's what I'm talking about. It's convicted criminals. That's what I'm saying. We're not talking about migrants or someone who immigrated here and they did something. We're talking about.
Okay, stop.
Homegrowns are next, didn't he?
So you're going to hear Charlemagne's argument in here in just a second. But did you hear what she said? We're talking about criminals. We're not talking about migrants or people who are undocumented. Okay, those are criminals too, and in fact, it's a felony if you cross the border illegally. That's why you can be scooped up and thrown into prison or deported somewhere. If you are an illegal alien, you are by definition a criminal because the very first thing you did in coming into our country is violate our law. Absolutely, illegal immigration is a crime. Let's hear Charlemagne's response to what she has to say.
Let's listen to the president when he speaks, okay? Because he's not playing. The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to deport convicted criminals
to
third-party country.
Hear me out.
It depends on what you did.
Depending on the crime.
But we gonna send them.
I don't care. Depending on the crime. If you do a crime that's so heinous, let's say you go and you kill 7, 8-year-olds
or rape a child.
The mass shootings, right? Like the mass shootings, the school shootings.
I could care less where they send you.
Where you gonna put them? You gonna drop them in?
I could care less.
He don't care.
I don't care. If you walk into a school and you kill 8, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care where they send you. I hope that would be a deterrent.
I agree.
Hey, they gonna send your stupid ass to El Salvador now.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't want.
What happens if you don't do it and they say you did it and they send your ass to
All right. So He doesn't care where they send the criminals. And, again, this might be a little bit of, going with the wind, or it may be, hey, all the things I was saying before, really, it's a bunch of Democrat talking points, and it's really a bunch of bull crap. But I think a lot of it is probably going with the wind, going with the most popular guy in the room. We've seen a lot of media outlets doing that, though not all of them. The Communist News Network and PMS NBC, they're still full-blown anti-Trump every day of the week. So anyway, at least there are some people in the media that are kind of trying to come our way. So let's see, looking at the clock, we've got, you know what, let's go ahead and take our break early. And when we come back, we're going to let Agent 29 vent a little bit about his adventures in government land. Really what he was doing is screwing off somewhere. I mean, just trying to avoid work. While I was here, holding down the fort, doing the program, doing what I was supposed to do. I don't want to hear this working for the people crap. Back in a minute. It's spring-ish in Wyoming. Well, what that means for the uninitiated is that it's going to be 70 degrees one day and then snow 1.5 feet the next. And really, if you don't like those two options, just wait a little bit. The weather will change. I know, it sounds a little stressful, but really you should put your mind at ease and buy a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They'll keep you warm and dry even on the nastiest, coldest spring-ish day, and they'll keep you cool and dry even when it's 75 and sunny. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. Are you one of those people that said something like this before Trump became president?
I have a house in Spain that is going to be ready right after the election. Siberia.
Nova Scotia.
I'm definitely moving to Canada. Straight to hell. Iceland. France.
Asia's pretty cool.
And has the past 5 weeks just been more than you could bear? If that's the case, you have come to the right place. All you need to do is call my friend Rebecca Bextel at Compass Real Estate. She has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market all across the state of Wyoming. Last year, she sold around $30 million worth of property. Everything from small residential properties all the way up to big giant ranches. So if you've got to get the heck out of Dodge, if you've got to be gone Johnson because you can't stand that Trump is the president, call Rebecca Bextel. Her phone number is 307-699-3519. Let me say that one more time for you in case you missed it. 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
This program is only going to continue to expand. Number 32 on the list of the 100 conservative podcasts you should be listening to in 2025. Don't forget about the Cowboy State Politics podcast, the live program, which you can watch on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble. I'm honestly, Kenny, I mean, it's pretty hard to avoid this program.
I managed to do it for almost a week.
Yes, but you were off screwing off in government land.
Let me tell you a little bit about what I did.
I don't want to hear
so that
it.
you
This
get
is
an
justifying
understanding.
your
Yeah.
absence. I don't like it.
We went to Du Bois last week, towards the end of the week.
That's a nice museum they have over there.
It is, and we got a personal tour from Dan, who's the guy that put it together. It's like $100 million.
Whew.
no government funding whatsoever. He did it entirely himself.
Yep, it's all his cash.
And the guy is an encyclopedia of knowledge. So when he gives you a tour, you go around and he not only would tell you about all the things that are there, but the battles that they were illustrating. And if you ever have a chance, you've got to go to Du Bois and see that. From there, we went back to Thermop and spent a little bit of time with my kids and grandbabies. And
how are they?
That was kind of nice. I don't know because I was the one doing all the talking.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, then there was a meet and greet over in Gillette when we first got there, and I got to sit down and have dinner with Trey, and who, by the way, was absolutely thrilled with having been on the show. She thought it was a blast.
By the way, I sent her a copy of a link to the show and everything, and never responded.
Well, she's busy too.
Fair enough. Yeah. More messing around on government time, I see.
I also got to sit there with Mike Greer and Ogden Driscoll.
I'm
which
sorry.
Was fun. They were a big part of the next week. We started appropriations on Monday, and Monday evening we did a town hall in Gillette, and it was Chip and John and Scott and myself. Chris Knapp was there. Bill was there.
Bill Alamand.
Yeah. And then sitting out in the audience taking copious notes. So I look forward to some interesting articles being written were
bullcrap.
Ogden and Mike Giroux. And
so was it Kangaroo Mike Giroux and Mike Greer was also there, or?
Yeah. Well, they were not on the dais. They were out in the audience.
Ah, I see.
This was specifically a Freedom Caucus thing.
Okay.
So, and Dan Larson was out there, a couple of others. Tony Locke came up from Casper. We let him speak a little bit, and I shouldn't say let him speak. We forced him into it. Anyway, it was a busy time, and then Tuesday back to sitting at appropriations. We'll talk about that a little bit. What this video is from is a discussion with the Department of Revenue. We have a new director of the Department of Revenue.
Thank God. Brenda Hansen,
she is retired. She is retired. Mr. Sachet was responsible for the minerals side of revenue, and now he's the interim. So I guess maybe the best thing to do is just kind of start this discussion, and when one of us wants to stop it, we'll stop it.
Okay. Yeah. So, before I play this video, there's a lot of people don't really understand what appropriations does. But essentially, these are the folks that spend your money. Just about every bill that every bill that has a price tag on it goes through appropriations. Appropriations are the people that come up with the budget before it goes to the floor. So if there's any spending that's happening in the Wyoming legislature, it goes through House Appropriations. Now, where this video is going to start is with old Augie. I used to call him Wilford Brimley, just not quite as smart, because at that time, he was the size of Wilford Brimley, and and again, just not nearly as smart. But anyway, old Augie is going to ask a question, and then it just kind of continues from there. So you just want me to hit play and.
Yeah, go ahead. I would say one thing. We're the ones that spend everything. But if you look at who mans this committee now, it's basically the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, totally.
And
on the one side.
It used to be Spendy McSpendersons.
That's true. Yeah. But on the House side, and you can fill in the blanks for me here if I miss anybody, but there's John Baer, Agent 29, Jeremy Haraldson, Scott Smith, Representative Bill Alamand, and then there's Trey Sherwood. Did I miss anybody?
Abby Angelo.
Oh, and how could I forget Abby? I really like her.
I used to.
Yeah, you don't like her anymore?
She has taken it upon herself to kind of be the policeman to keep me in check.
Well, somebody needs to. I'm not there. I'm not on appropriations.
She'll sit. You notice in this one, she's sitting clear. I did that deliberately. We moved her to the other end of the table to give my shins a break.
Well, I think that you just did it so she could sit next to the lack of ethics criminal Tim Salazar. I think you did that on purpose.
I do want to say the truth of it is Abby is absolutely brilliant.
Yes, she is. I really like her.
It's a delight to work with her until she kicks me.
All right. So, well, that's why she's over on the other side of the room. Anyway, so let me hit play and we'll listen to a little bit of this. And Ken, you just tell me when we need to pause it.
Yes. Senator Driscoll.
Thank you. A couple that you might not be able to answer right away. Number of exemptions we have to our sales taxes and estimated cost to us to give these exemptions.
Okay, so the estimated cost of all of these exemptions, and what does it cost us when we give these exemptions? So what they're talking about is an exemption to sales tax. So there are a lot of things in Wyoming that we do tax, sales and use taxes, and in statute there's a whole bunch of things, and I probably couldn't give you a list of things that are exempt from that. But the legislature has said, you know what, we're not going to tax this group over here. And then there are a whole bunch of things in Wyoming that are not taxed at all.
Like groceries.
Yeah, groceries. But I think groceries are one of the exemptions. So what I'm getting at is...
I'm sorry, I wasn't following you very well.
The things that we don't tax that aren't in statute, those are not what Augie is talking about. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of other things that are in statute that the legislature has said, we're not going to tax those. But apparently it costs us money when we give an exemption, and when we give an exemption.
Yeah, let me just play that audio so you can hear what he actually said.
Senator Driscoll.
Thank you. A couple that you might not be able to answer right away. Number of exemptions we have to our sales taxes and estimated cost to us to give these exemptions. Because
okay, what strikes me there is I consider myself a representative of the people. And so I go there and represent the people while these other agencies are there representing the agencies, and there's supposed to be this stasis that work between them. You want all this money, we don't want to pay this money, but we do need some of these services, so we work it out and we come to an agreement. But a lot of the people that have been entrenched there for a long time consider themselves the government.
Yes.
We're no longer representing the people. So now we have a government of, by, and for the government.
Exactly.
And you can hear it exactly in what he said. Like, what is this going to cost us?
A tax break does not cost anything. I am so sick of hearing this trope that apparently if we don't steal somebody's money, that costs us something. Nobody's writing a check for a tax break. What Augie is saying is we're not going to have that much money to spend. I mean, it is not a cost, and it is absolutely disingenuous. It's insulting to Wyoming citizens to say that when they receive a tax cut, that's somehow costing the government. The government doesn't have its own money. It's all our money. You just steal it from us. Ah!
You see, that's why I'm on appropriations and you're behind the silver microphone.
Yeah, but it would be a heck of a lot more fun if I was there.
Well, trust me, it's a challenge.
You know, I would probably be thrown out in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's my point.
But it would be the most glorious 5 minutes that anybody has ever seen. Should we continue?
Let's resume.
All right.
Because some of them I know we can't even tell because we don't track it. But those two, second one, unrelated, how many auditors do we have and what do we find on compliance? Would we treat ourselves well to have a little beef up in the auditing department?
Stop the tape.
Stop the tape.
Would we treat ourselves well?
Yes.
You can tell where his position is. And a little bit about audit. And David, you and I got a special treat.
Yes,
a couple of years ago. We went over to Buffalo and we met with two of the leaders of the Department of Audit. And just to clarify, the Department of Audit does not work for Katie. They don't work for the auditor.
No.
The Department of Audit, yeah, Christy, I'm sorry, dear. The Department of Audit does not do what you would think it would do, which would be to audit the various agencies and make sure that the money is being spent accurately and there's no fraud, waste, and abuse. There is virtually no auditing in that regard. What the Department of Audit does is go out and make sure that the state is getting every dime they're entitled to.
Yes.
As they see it.
Okay, so and there's a huge disparity in the Department of Audit. The vast majority of the people that work there do not audit the expenditures. They audit the revenues that come in. And so like Ken said, the vast majority of people that work there, they're just out there to make sure that they take every last dime of your money that the government thinks that they're entitled to. The other folks, well, and there's only like 4 or 5 of them that actually monitor expenditures. And I mean, you can't monitor the entire state of Wyoming with 4 or 5 people. I mean, actually, I think the number was 6, but, and that was a couple of years ago. I don't know how.
You're going to hear, I don't know how far you took the tape, but he talks about having 20 out there.
Yeah, it's way more than 20. I mean, he's just talking about one division.
Precisely.
All right, let's go and continue.
Yeah, let me just throw this, before we continue the tape, let me just throw this audio so that in case you weren't quite listening carefully, you hear exactly what we just talked about. When the audio's done, go ahead and roll the tape.
Okay.
Second one, unrelated. How many auditors do we have, and what do we find on compliance? Would we treat ourselves well to have a little beef up in the auditing department? Thank you.
Do we need to hire more tax
Mr.
collectors?
Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, Senator Driscoll. Yes, exemption question. Right now, depending on how you count the exemptions, because they're in a couple different spots, even though we've got
This is
one
what I was talking
section.
about earlier.
It's generally 52 exemptions in the sales tax statutes. So we do have 14 imposition statutes. Imposition statutes tell you what vendors have to charge sales tax on. Then to those 14 impositions, we do have 52 exemptions for a variety of reasons. It could be political subdivisions, it could be use, it could be a variety of reasons why. So 14 impositions, 52 exemptions to those impositions.
This is a little bit long, but it really helps to put things in context and get an idea of how things go. So bear with us, and I'd encourage you to pay attention to this one. And if this intrigues you, go back and watch the day 2, just the day 2, the morning part. That was where we discussed these taxes.
All right, so here's why we're showing you all of this, because they're talking about how to take more of your money, and it's important that you understand exactly what that process looks like, and so that you know which departments are involved and how they actually figure out how much of your money that they're going to take. And what's being described here is, all right, look, you have these 52 exemptions. These are the 52 things that they've decided that they're not going to tax. They're of benefit to the economy, and so the net benefit is if we don't tax them, we get more revenue off of them than if we were to just straight tax them. And so there's a whole bunch of other things that are not taxed. So he's going to mention here in a little bit services to humans. Okay, so that's like hairstylists. Okay, we don't tax when you go get a haircut or a barber or your lawn care or anything like that. Services we don't generally tax.
Labor generally is not taxed. If I go out and do a project for somebody, construction project, the materials are taxed, but the labor's not.
Okay, let me give you another example. So advertising is not taxed. In fact, advertising is a write-off on your federal taxes. But the reason why we don't tax it in the state is because there is a net benefit off of a company increasing the amount of products that they're sold. So if a company advertises on my program, which, by the way, if you want to be a sponsor of Cowboy State Politics, go ahead and send me an email. The address is david@cowboystatepolitics.com. But anyway, if you advertise on my show and your sales go up, which they absolutely will, then the government actually collects more money off of the taxes from you. And if they were to tax the advertising, it would actually end up being a little bit less. So there's a little bit of cloak and dagger here with the tax structure. There's reasons why we tax things the way that we do, and it's important to understand why.
What was so insidious about this conversation, what I would encourage you to listen to the thing in context. They are desperately trying to find an excuse to remove the exemption for groceries. That's the one thing they can do. And so there's a bit of a discussion about what effects that would have, and that all goes on. But um, the answer is never, are we spending too much money?
No.
The answer is always, how do we get more?
And the truth is, and this is, I'm going to have to go find the right committee meeting. But there's a committee meeting in which I think the city of Laramie, I think it might have been the mayor, but he says, funny thing, when that tax expired, and he was talking about the 1% additional optional tax, when that tax expired, we actually brought more money in. It's the Laffer curve. So if you decrease taxes, the government will actually they'll actually bring in more cash from other ancillary taxes. So if you stop taking people's money, we'll actually have more money to spend on everything else. It's kind of contradictory, but that's the way that it actually works.
It's worth noting, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Senator, that in the state of Wyoming, we do have narrow imposition statutes. So those exemptions do not include things that are just not taxable. And so that includes services to real property, financial transactions, services to humans, just a variety of those things. So you've kind of got two different aspects there. You've got things that are taxable, but the legislature has decided to exempt them. And then you've got things that are just not taxable.
This is what I was talking about.
So as generally in the excise tax division, and I'll get you exact numbers, there's about 20 auditors. And so they're going to do roughly a couple hundred audits each year. Generally, the compliance ratio, which is something I track because I'm the one who actually signs those assessments, is in the 90 percentiles. But when you start doing percentages, that amount starts to creep up into a couple $1 million. And it varies each year depending on the type of audits. Generally, it's been my experience, both on both sides, that generally auditors do bring in money as compared to the cost to the state.
Stop the tape, yeah. So catch that. We've got about 20 auditors working in this particular division.
It's about 100 total.
Yeah. Ogden has just asked, would it be worthwhile for us to beef up the auditing, to hire more tax collectors? And he comes back and says, generally,
you make more money.
Everyone that we have out there brings in a profit.
Uh-huh. This is the Wyoming equivalent of the hiring 80,000 IRS agents. That's what they're talking about here. Augie says, well, would it be to our benefit if we hired more people? And the head of the revenue department, he says, oh, yeah, revenue people, you add more, we make more money. It's makes sense, right? Because you're auditing more. And anyway, we're about to get to the really good part with Augie. Let's go ahead and hit play again.
In general.
Any rough idea on the exemptions dollar amount? Just swag.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Driscoll, yes and no. The reason being, this was something I tried to do a year or two ago.
All right, so hold on. So Augie's question was, so any idea of how much money we're not taking from people with all of these exemptions? That's what he meant. And what he's trying to figure out is, well, if we took away all these exemptions, how much more cash could we steal from people? And that's the genesis of his question. So listen to his response.
In one of my presentations to the Joint Revenue Committee. And when vendors report sales tax to us, there's a gross line, there's a total deduction line, and then it nets to a net taxable on the tax that they submit into us. What I had attempted to do was total up all of the deducted amounts. And that figure was one I don't want to say again, per se. It was in the billions of dollars. It was. But...
Okay, so stop. All right. So what he just said is the amount of money that we are not taxing ended up being in the billions of dollars. So that's how much commerce happens. Now, just look at the amount of money that the state of Wyoming spends. We just not this time around, but the last biennial budget was the largest budget in Wyoming history. And still, we're not taxing all of these billions of dollars, and we're still spending more money than we could possibly ever dream.
Well, the problem, of course, is that blasted property tax cut.
Oh, yeah,
that is causing fire departments to shut down. And,
no, it's not.
And everything else across the state. Actually, that came up in this meeting. That yes, they're going to lose a fire department.
So it's such a blatant lie. I mean, it just drives me bat crap crazy.
When you watched him, when he said billions of dollars, and he, by the way, he's not the director. He's the tax special.
Yeah.
The guy on the left is the interim director. But when he said billions of dollars, I glanced over at Ogden, and it looked like Pavlov's dog.
Oh, yeah. He was just drooling. I mean, all right, let's continue.
There was so many caveats when I went through that. It's really hard to tell. Some of the exemptions, you can really, if you look at their returns, you can really see what their exemption. Like, for example, we've talked about grocery stores. If I look at their returns, the vast majority of that is going to be exempted food. But then you've also got grocery stores that sell fuel. Fuel is also not subject to sales tax or an exemption in our statutes. And so just trying to decipher what the percentage of grocery store food versus fuel is can be complicated. And there's a variety of other scenarios where it makes it tough. But to answer your question, when I did the calculation a few years ago, the state of Wyoming basically exempts 2/3 of the sales that come through our office.
2/3 of all the sales are exempt.
Billions of dollars left uncollected.
Yes.
Look at all the things that we're losing.
Look at all of the taxes that we could collect. I mean, how dare we exempt 2/3 of everything that's sold? Now, you can just imagine. We just played for you, old Augie, saying, well, any idea on how much money we get from these exemptions? You could just imagine him sitting over there with his stupid mustache drooling, and it's kind of the drool is dripping onto the table. Because you're about to see him tell you what he's up to. Let's go ahead and listen.
So our exemptions are sizable. Mr. Chairman, Senator Driscoll, I've tried to pinpoint that figure, but there's just so many caveats in that calculation.
Mr. Chairman, Bob.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. That's incredible to find out that we're exempt in 2/3. Thank you very much. Good information. I don't know if it'd take a statutory change. Would it be helpful if we went a little more in depth in our sales tax returns? I fill them out and I understand how they work.
All right. That's pretty much the long and the short of it.
And where he's going right there, I filled him out and can we make these things more out? We need to have more information about how much revenue we're missing. That's what it came down to.
That's exactly what it is. And the whole point is, it's amazing that we're exempting 2/3 of all the sales. Think about all the money that we're missing. Absolutely incredible. None of these people are on your side. Well, the Freedom Caucus is on your side, and the conservatives are, but not Ogden Driscoll, not any of the liberals. I mean, they just want to take as much as they can from you, and they're pretty darn good at it. But anyway, we'll have more in a minute.
U.S. Coin Capital, we hear from Americans across the United States who have a growing concern about the future purchasing power of U.S. paper money. Many Americans are looking for an alternative for long-term capital. For more than 35 years, the people at U.S. Coin Capital have educated American investors on how to properly accumulate United States gold and silver coins. Call us at 1-800-878-2646 or visit us on the web, uscoincapital.com.
Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics.
Some say standing up for what you believe in is being extreme. Ask any woman in Wyoming. They'll tell you this is called courage. The mainstream media claims that holding the line on important issues is being unreasonable. My mom taught me this is called staying true to our principles. In other places, people argue you always have to compromise to get something done. Here in Wyoming, we know that some things are worth protecting at all costs. Some say it's time we give up on the values that made our state great to accommodate toxic culture. I say it's time to stand tall and protect the values that have served Wyoming well for over 134 years. Join Honor Wyoming as we defend and preserve the Wyoming way of life. Find out how you can make a difference today.
Visit honorwyoming.org. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live. I'm David Iverson, and you are listening to me do what I was born to do, with talent given to me by God himself. It's absolutely true, my friends. Thank you for listening to the program. And you have no idea how much I appreciate your participation and listening to the show. Without you, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So thank you very much. And, thanks again to the sponsors of Cowboy State Politics. We couldn't do what we do without them either. So we just finished talking with Ken about all of his adventures in government land, and it's absolutely incredible. All of them, the number one thing that they're worried about is just spending your money. And they never give it another look. They never give it another thought that maybe, just maybe, they're taking too much of your cash, because that's not a possibility in their mind. The only thing that's important to them is they continue to spend and they continue to grow government, because they have a fundamentally different worldview than you and I do. The liberals, Augie, and I would say the people that are complicit in that, I mean, you saw in the video, Dan Larson and Tim Salazar, and you couldn't see him on the camera, but Kangaroo Mike Giroux off to the left of the video. The way that they look at the world is that government needs to provide everything for you from cradle to grave. That the more government services we can create, the more money that we can spend, the more cash we can bring in, well, then we can take care of you. Conservatives don't look at the world like that. It is I believe that it is fundamentally wrong for government to take any more money than is absolutely necessary. That it is up to you to provide for yourself. We all have the freedom of opportunity. Everybody has an equal opportunity to succeed. And if you work hard and you apply yourself, you will be successful in whatever it is that you're doing. I'm not saying that you're going to be just as rich as the next guy. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is you will be successful in the craft that you choose. If you are a pipeliner and you work hard and you perfect your craft, you will be the best darn pipeliner there is around. Similarly, if you have the best podcast in the state of Wyoming and you work hard and you apply yourself, well, then you'll be successful doing that too. But government, they don't look at it that way. Not at all. And, some of those people, a lot of those people that are on that whole thought train work in the media. And I mean, admittedly, that's what I do too, but I'm on the other side of things. There are a lot of folks that are in the media that they just can't figure it out. They don't understand why people won't vote for them. Some of those are on The View. And the reason I bring this up, and I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about Israel, but I just looked over at the stack of stuff, and I've got a couple of pieces here. But from the Daily Wire, Joy Behar can't figure out why Trump didn't tell Iran he was going to bomb the nuclear sites. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, at all. But why wouldn't he give them a little bit of a notice? And I quote. Let me just read a little bit, and then I'll play this section for you. The View host, Joy Behar, complained about President Donald Trump's decision to strike Iranian nuclear sites, first objecting to the fact that he did not exhaust the 2-week window he had set for such an attack, and then to the fact that he had not warned Iran ahead of time that he planned to carry out the attacks. Again, it's so amazing that you can't even make this up. But as I said earlier on the program, I never thought that this whole 2-week thing meant anything. I thought at the very most, he's kind of signaling to the rest of the world something's about to happen. And I never thought that it would be 2 weeks that he would give Iran that much notice. But when the president of the United States says, hey, you don't do this in 2 weeks, you're out, you can be pretty well assured that something's going to happen. Go ahead and play. Let's listen to that piece, and then we'll go to the next one. So go ahead and play cut number 1.
I'm happy to have you here. Believe me.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, the White House said that Trump was going to make a decision on Iran within the next 2 weeks. That's what he said. Remember that?
Yeah, you remember that? How dare he lie?
He was going to give diplomatic negotiations more time to play out. And then, less than 48 hours later, this attack was underway. So what changed? And what was he actually trying to accomplish here?
I mean, look, the 2 weeks measure was clearly a bit of a head fake. I mean, not entirely. I wouldn't say the decision was finally made. All indications are he didn't actually make the decision to so-called pull the trigger until Saturday. And
all right, so that's Jonathan Karl you're listening to there. And he's the NBC News chief correspondent. And he's saying, well, look, it was probably never going to be 2 weeks. That's just what he did. And probably the other thing that Trump was doing was he needed to give himself enough time to get enough assets in place. And we talked about this at the top of the program, how much coordination happened here. But it was never going to be 2 weeks.
I'm not a good poker player. I don't hide things all in my face, but I think I could whip Joy Behar.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's finish this soundbite, and then we'll go to the next part.
And then the attack commenced. But obviously, all the wheels were already in motion. In fact, the wheels were in motion a full week beforehand. Shortly after the Israelis made their attack the previous Friday, the president saw it as a sweeping success. I mean, he was very excited about it. I spoke to him that morning, and he said, this is excellent. He was no longer saying the Americans weren't involved. He was taking credit for American weaponry being part of it. He was clearly ready to go, but there was a last-minute push for some kind of a diplomatic resolution. He really wanted that moment. I mean, I think he thought he could have a Kim Jong-un moment with the supreme leader of Iran and have a big deal. Right.
Okay, so that sounds pretty insulting, right? And Jonathan Karl meant it that way, that Trump was thinking that he was going to have another diplomatic breakthrough. And, I mean, anybody would. If you're the president of the United States and you tell a country like Iran, look, we're coming. If you don't do what I say in 2 weeks, we're going to bomb you into the Stone Age. I mean, you can be pretty well assured that that's happening. And of course, the president of the United States would want to say, hey, let's fix this without dropping any bombs. I mean, that's obviously what he wanted.
I would point to Iraq as a great example. Weapons of mass destruction. We're going to come look in 3 months. Weapons of mass destruction. We know you got them. We're going to come find them. Oh, we can't find them.
Yeah, exactly right. Right. And we found pieces of them in Iraq, but we never found like the proverbial smoking gun. But here, I mean, the only thing that Trump was doing is saying, hey, this is going to happen. And yes, he's hoping for a diplomatic solution. So then dumb joyless Behar says, well, why didn't he warn Iran? Play cut number 2.
So why did he keep it a secret? Just for the surprise version?
I mean, absolutely the diversion, and you saw the way that
dumb are these people?
all indications were the B-2s were flying towards Guam. Everybody thought, okay, so we're getting in position to be ready. They wanted to have some element of surprise. Let's face it, there wasn't really much element of surprise. I mean, this had been in the works for a long time.
Why not tell them you're going to do it? Because they would move everything out of the area, and they would still be able to produce nuclear weapons. That's why.
And now I'm thinking not only poker, but I could probably beat her at chess. She obviously doesn't think of another move ahead.
You could beat her at checkers. I mean, tiddlywinks. I mean, this woman is an idiot. But here's the other point that I want to make. So Joyless Behar, and Whoopi Goldberg, and Sonny Hostin, and all of those idiots on The View. These are the people that the media puts in front of you to talk to you. Now, if and the last soundbite is a perfect example of the problem with the American media. They're not smart enough to say, well, of course we don't want to tip somebody off that we're about to attack them. Of course we want to have the element of surprise. No. They say, well, why didn't they tell them? No, I mean, we really should talk to them first. We should tell them we're going to bomb them. But this is the level of intelligence that the media thinks that, that you will buy. So first of all, they think that you're a moron. And second, they put people who actually are morons on TV to talk with you. And it is absolute media malpractice. And I mean, it is incredible to me that programs like The View have been going on for as long as they have. Just simply because, I mean, you're dumber for watching that stuff. And I mean, I sometimes I feel bad for subjecting my audience to The View, but I think that it's kind of like a 10-penny nail, man. You have to kind of keep hitting it to explain how idiotic these folks are. And they just don't understand reality. And when they have somebody who's, admittedly on the left, but fairly well educated, Jonathan Karl, I mean, he understands the ins and outs of foreign policy, even though he does work for ABC News. They still look at him incredulously and question, well, why is that? Why would he do that? Well, here's the long and the short of it, that there are folks, most of the folks in the media, they don't care what the situation is. They will reach and try to find a way to make Trump look bad. It doesn't matter what it is. And you see a lot of this stuff online. A lot of the folks that respond to my posts. By the way, I don't read a lot of the comments. When I know that the liberals are going nuts on a post, I just kind of ignore them. But they are searching for anything that they can possibly grab a hold of that maybe, perhaps, might be a little bit negative when it comes to President Trump. And the truth is, they don't have it. In 12 days, the country of Iran, who has been the world's chief sponsor of terror since 1979, was brought to its knees. Now, admittedly, it was Israel that did a lot of the heavy lifting initially, and then we got rid of their only bargaining chip, and they don't have anything left. That is a huge victory.
Not only were they brought to their knees, but the targets were hit precisely.
Yes.
We did not have a lot of collateral damage, as they like to say.
Not a single soldier.
It's amazing.
Not a single shot fired. And that should tell you a lot. Now, granted, Israel destroyed most of their intelligence gathering capabilities, their radar stations and all of that. But at some point, what's about to happen, and that, I mean, there's Tomahawk cruise missiles being fired. Something's happening.
Yeah, well, some of the satellite photos you saw, I'm sure you could see all the trucks lined up. So they obviously knew something was coming. They were trying to get something out of there. How efficient, how effective they were is hard to say.
Yeah, I don't think we'll know the answer to that.
They'd have been a lot more effective, though, if we'd have said, we're going to hit you at 3 o'clock on the 15th.
Yeah, absolutely. If Joy Behar was in charge of the military, it wouldn't have been effective at all. But there are some folks in the media that are tired of people like Joyless Behar and Whoopi Goldberg and frankly any news network or network TV. I shouldn't just call it news. But they're tired of folks that put people like Joy Behar on and give them a forum. And that's the biggest problem right there, is these people are absolute political hacks, and they're dumb as a post. And, why give them a forum at all whatsoever? From Fox News, Bill Maher of all people. And again, Bill Maher is a liberal. Don't think that he's coming over to our side just because he had dinner with Donald Trump. He is a classic liberal. And there's a big difference between that and, your really wacko, crazy blue and pink hair screaming activist leftist. He's not one of those. A classic liberal is the people that believe in bigger government, more government spending. Generally, they still like the Constitution and think that it's a pretty good document. But they're just Democrats. And that's what Bill Maher is. Well, he says that Democrats need to, quote, do something about The View after Whoopi Goldberg's comments. Now, if you've forgotten, Whoopi Goldberg compared Black Americans' lives under Iran's brutal theocratic regime to, so she compared the lives of Black Americans to that of the Nazis. I am not even kidding. In fact, if you give me just a second here, I'll come up with the soundbite. But my point is, my friends, that Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, the rest of them, they have been able to say pretty much anything that they want for a really long time. And nobody, apparently, at their network, nobody says, hey, maybe we shouldn't have these people on TV. Here's that Whoopi Goldberg soundbite.
That's the thing. So the question then becomes, that's why you have a UN. That's why you had all of these folks who come together. And it's slow.
But let's just remember too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Hanging Black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot wearing this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto and killed for
I'm sorry.
I can't have my hair showing.
Okay. I can't take it anymore. So anyway, there's Whoopi Goldberg saying that the lives of Black Americans is the same as living in Tehran right now. Well, Bill Maher has had enough of this, and he just says, Democrats need to do something about The View. Play cut number 7. Uh-oh. Cut number 7 not playing?
Amazon offers hourly employees health care on day 1.
I don't know what happened there. Anyway, we'll come up with it, and then we'll play it for you. Probably my fault when I was getting the sound bites ready, but it's actually pretty funny. And the truth of this, my friends, is a lot of these folks, they will say and do anything to get any sort of reaction out of the media, and they think that you are dumb enough to listen to it. And when you have folks like Whoopi Goldberg saying it's the same as living in Tehran. It's not even anywhere close to being accurate. Here, I think I've got it here. Let me go ahead and hit play. Well, maybe I do. We're having technical difficulties this morning, Ken. I don't know what the heck's going on.
You're having technical difficulties. I'm just sitting over here watching.
You're just applauding. See what you've missed, Ken? This is what I've had to put up with since you were gone.
Yeah, I will tell you, and part of this is probably my fault, because generally every morning you give me all of the sound bites to play, and I generally go through and preview them.
Yes.
But today you gave me like 37 of them.
Well,
and I've
been stocking up. All right, here we go. Hold on. I think I've got it. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. See, and it's and this is one of the things, man. Live radio. I should have it now.
Of Whoopi Goldberg.
Here we go.
What do you think of Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a Black person in America today than a woman in Iran? I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity. And a second good step would be, we got to do something about The View.
Exactly right.
I really believe that. I mean,
Could you just it's huge in Iran, though.
When I mentioned The View in Iran, all with the same head cover. Can't even tell which one is which.
My district in the great state of Texas is actually a white majority district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. As I said, I'm a direct descendant of a slave. My great-great-grandfather was born on a Rosedown plantation. I am literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. That's the progress, because, like, a lot of white people had to vote for me.
All right, so exactly the point. Somebody needs to do something about The View. And I am not one of those people that says we need to, censor anybody. In fact, I think that Joy Behar and Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg need to continue talking just to expose how dumb the American left is.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad to go ahead and air what they're saying, because the crazier they get, the more they help you out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the more crazy stuff they say, it drives more people over to sanity. And the truth is, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have Trey Sherwood on the program, which, by the way, that was a blast talking to her. I mean, it was a really good interview, and I don't think that we agreed on anything, but it was a heck of a lot of fun, and we were able to have a conversation. And that's something that the left, certainly the left and the media, know that they can't have, because they will lose. Because the ideas of the Democrat Party and the American left don't work in the real world. None of them do. They might work on paper, they might work in some stodgy building on a university campus, but they definitely don't work in the real world.
I was just going to let folks know, I spoke to Claire McFarland at the Cow Pie the other day.
I'm sorry.
Yesterday.
Actually, she's not half bad. She's not Trotsky.
She's all right. She's a lefty, but anyway, we had a little bit of a conversation back and forth, and I thought her head was going to explode. I'm wearing one right now that you really can't see, but it says Wyoming Doge on it, and we all got them at this last meeting, including Trey, and then we got a group photo together. We're all, if you find me on Facebook, you can see that photo. But I thought that Claire's head was going to explode when she said Trey wore a Doge hat. She got one. I said, yeah, she liked it. It was pink.
Yeah, exactly right. But none of the people on the American left truly understand how bad off they are. And maybe some of them do, which is why people like The View, or in many cases, the Cow Pie. I mean, the Cow Pie employs Gail Simmons, of all people. By the way, we should probably talk about Gail Simmons. Did you read her op-ed, Ken? I mean, I know you were busy.
Isn't it time to go to a commercial?
It is not yet. So Gail Simmons has an op-ed out in the Cow Pie, and she's saying that the gun bill, House Bill 172, the repeal of gun-free zones, well, that erodes grassroots governance. Oh, yes. Gail Simmons. Anyway, so let me just read the first couple paragraphs here, and then we'll talk about it. And I quote, at a recent Wyoming Association of Municipalities summer conference, a panel discussion drew a unusually sharp contrast between two principles conservatives hold dear: gun access and local control. On the one side, the legislative sponsor of House Bill 172 defended it as a triumph for Second Amendment rights and safety. On the other, the mayor of Pinedale made a simple and powerful case for local control. It wasn't just a polite disagreement, it's a fundamental clash of governing philosophies, one that plays out across Wyoming. Any thoughts, Agent 29?
I can make a fundamental case against cities and counties being able to preempt your Second Amendment right, and that is Wyoming state law. The preemption is there. They have no right to touch your God-given rights. The only people that can affect it at all is the Wyoming legislature, and we're trying to do it less and less and less.
You don't get to regulate the Constitution or the Second Amendment. That is not within the power of a municipality. You don't get, like, lowly city council people can't look at the Second Amendment and say, or the school board and say, we're going to prevent you from carrying guns. They don't have that power. There is no local control over the Constitution. And this is what this moron, Gail Simmons, is saying, is that, well, it erodes local control. You don't get to have local control over the Second Amendment. Secondarily, there's a Wyoming state law. It's called the preemption law that does away with your ability to regulate those things. In fact, it says that state law preempts local law. And there's a long history to go along with this that I'll explain here in just a second. But go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to point out that Governor Gordon used that excuse last time when he vetoed the bill.
Yeah.
And he's the one that signed the preemption law into law. Does he read what he signs?
No. And neither did Gail Simmons. And I quote, let's start with the loudest argument we've heard that gun-free zones violate the Second Amendment. That claim gets repeated like gospel, but here's the truth. It's not supported by the very Supreme Court decision that Second Amendment absolutists love to cite. Okay, listen to this. In D.C. versus Heller, Antonin Scalia, arguably one of the most celebrated conservative jurists in modern American history, wrote the majority opinion that affirmed an individual's right to keep and bear arms. But he also wrote, quote, nothing in our opinion should be taken to cast doubt on long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons and the mentally ill, or laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places such as schools and government buildings. That's because states make those laws, not your local government. If you allowed school boards, the city council, the county commissioners to make firearms laws, then you wouldn't be able to carry a firearm anywhere. And why we know that? I'll tell you in just a second. Go ahead, Ken.
Part of the problem with that is if every school board, if every little local municipality could make whatever the laws they were, you would spend all of your time just trying to figure out, can I cross the street and still be legal?
Mm-hmm.
And effectively, you would completely lose those rights because there's no way to make them uniform so that you can walk about comfortably.
If the school board or the city council or the county commissioners, and this is the major flaw in Gail Simmons's argument, is that if they are allowed if it is permissible for them to pass regulations on the Second Amendment, local control and all, it is also completely appropriate for them to say that Black or Hispanic or Asian students cannot go to the same school as white students. There is no difference in those two arguments. I mean, if you're going to claim that a local municipality has the power to decide what happens with your gun rights, then it's no different than them saying who can and can't go to school. And we all know that Brown v. Board of Education is one of the cherished decisions, and I would say that it was a good one, though we can have some argument about its how necessary things like affirmative action and those things are right now. But it is no different in the argument. Local governments cannot have the ability to regulate the Constitution or the Second Amendment. And the reason we know that is they have before. During the mid to 1800s, just about every single Wyoming town had an ordinance about firearms. And the idea was to try to curb violence. At one time, Buffalo, Wyoming was the most dangerous town in America. And I can't remember which paper called it that, but they passed an ordinance that said you couldn't carry firearms in town. It's the classic premise behind the movie Unforgiven. No guns in town. Well, guess what? That law is still on the books. Now, granted, I don't know how that you would enforce it, but it absolutely is still on the books. Without the preemption law, you would have every single local town making different firearm regulations and telling you when, how, and if you could exercise your constitutional rights, the rights that are given to you by God, not by government.
There was a cartoon strip back in the 70s called Rick O'Shea.
Okay.
And
I'll bite.
Yeah, you could probably find it by Googling or something, but one of the series that they did was precisely that, where the town decided we're not going to have any firearms, check them at the door. Well, the law enforcement has to have firearms, and the mayor gets to have a firearm, and so then it became a classic. And he laid it out so well. I remember reading that probably as 13, 14 years old, and I sure would like to find a copy of that again.
Yeah, absolutely. But Gail Simmons is not only wrong on face, she's fundamentally wrong in her thinking and always has been. The fact that the cow pie employs her is an outrage. This woman will testify at every single legislative committee, whether she knows anything about the topic or not. And most of the time, she's lying. The reason we can say that is she makes up all sorts of statistics and claims that they're the truth. And though I don't want to go too far into it, Agent 29 could probably give you 100 different examples of when she's testified in front of a committee and she hasn't told the truth. Maybe not 100, maybe 50 examples. But the point is that it is absolutely an outrage that the cow pie gives her money so she can spew her liberal nonsense on its pages, and then they claim to be journalists in Wyoming. It's absolutely wrong, and so is Gail Simmons. I can't even believe that she made this argument. Well, it's Gail Simmons, so absolutely I can believe that she made the argument, but that she thinks she's right is absolutely crazy. I mean, and this is again the problem with the media. You have people that don't know what the heck they're talking about writing articles thinking that you're going to believe them. And if this, local sale of land is anything, a lot of people will believe anything they read. When we come back, we're going to have a socialist in New York. Aren't you excited, Ken? This is going to be fantastic. Back in a minute. You are listening to Cowboy State Politics Live. You can listen to the program on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, on Rumble, pretty much everywhere. It's almost like I'm omnipresent. If you miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics Live, you can always go to the live replay, which is located at the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, under the live replay button. You can listen to Cowboy State Politics Live every Tuesday through Friday at 8 a.m. You can listen to the Cowboy State Politics podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest place is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles that I might bring up during the course of a program. That way, if your name is Joe Biden and you can't remember if you had your pudding today, well, I probably can't help you with that, but I can definitely tell you why you should have never ran for president. And now, back to our program. I never thought I'd say this, but I think we might be better off in New York if we had the rent is too darn high guy as the mayor of New York instead of the guy we're going to have. Remember this guy? Throw this up on the screen, Ken.
Allow me to introduce myself. I represent the rent is too damn high party. People are working 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week to some a third job. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed their children breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My main job is to provide a roof over your head, food on the table, and money in your pocket. This is politics as usual. Playing a silly game. It's not going to happen. The rent too damn high movement, the people I'm here to represent can't afford to pay their rent. They're being laid off right now as I speak. They can't eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Listen, someone's stomach, child stomach.
So the truth is, we're probably better off if we had that guy as mayor than the person who's probably going to win. And I've been pounding on this guy for the last couple of episodes, but Ken, you've been too busy working for the people and doing a good job down at the legislature that you probably are not familiar with the guy who is probably going to end up being the mayor of New York. He is an admitted communist socialist, and his name is Zoran Mamdani. I'm not even kidding you. Well, he won the Democrat Party primary last night, and Andrew Cuomo, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up which one's going to be worse. You have the guy that through in COVID killed a whole bunch of people in nursing homes. So, he's not a very good guy either. But when you've got an avowed communist socialist, let me explain this to you. So he has absolutely been opposed to capitalism. He was on a podcast called The Bulwark, and don't think that these guys are conservatives by any means, but this is the guy that just won the Democrat Party primary last night. Listen to this.
Let's go. Are you ready? Number one is, as I mentioned earlier, capitalism. You tweeted, taxation isn't theft, capitalism is. You also want to seize the means of produce production in New York City. I would like to hear your thoughts on both those topics.
Yeah, so I would say judging me by my tweets sends me down a long road.
I have some bad tweets too, but it's right there. You want to be mayor, you're saying capitalism is theft. That seems bad.
What I've said over the course of this campaign is what I would focus on. And what my critiques of capitalism have been and continue to be is that this inequality is a feature of it. And if we do not have...
You see, the problem with capitalism is capitalists. The problem with socialism is socialism. Here's what I mean. And I'm kind of ripping off Rush Limbaugh. And actually, you know what? We should probably just let Rush explain this one. So here's Rush Limbaugh explaining the difference between capitalism and socialism. Because this Mamdani guy, he is a committed and avowed socialist and communist. And if you don't think that he's going to enact his communist policies in the city of New York, you are out of your mind. Because you're going to get what you want. But here's how Rush explained the problem here. Take a listen.
These illegals are being exploited and used by the Democrat Party, in some cases their own governments, by sending them here. And the American left in general, which has a big chip on its shoulder about this country anyway and would love nothing more than for all of it to be torn down. The problem with socialism is socialism. The problem with capitalism is capitalists. Now, before you think this is a criticism of capitalism, it's not. The problem with socialism is itself. There's nothing wrong with capitalism, except there are some people who game the system. But in socialism, why has socialism never worked? Because the people who run it are not socialists.
There you go.
They are full-fledged capitalists. Go to the Soviet Union, go to China, go to Cuba. The sons and daughters of party members do what? They live in the nicest houses. They have the nicest cars. They go to the nicest schools. The people in power in socialist societies have the power to game the system for themselves.
All right. So the problem with this Mamdani guy, there's lots of problems with him, but he's a socialist, but he's not going to be the one participating in socialism. He is going to be living in the mayor's mansion and have his hands on all the levers of the vast bureaucracy that is in New York. From Breitbart News this morning. Go ahead, Ken. Tell me how good socialism is.
I didn't mean to jump in there. I'm sitting there thinking about Ayn Rand's. If you want an extended explanation of what Rush was just saying, Ayn Rand does it beautifully.
Oh yeah.
And so if you haven't already read her, please do so.
Okay, so here we go. From Breitbart, Andrew Cuomo concedes to socialist Zoran Mamdani in the New York City Democrat mayoral primary. Quote, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo conceded to New York State Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani last night. Cuomo told his supporters that tonight was not their night and added that tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night. Quote, he put together a great campaign. He touched young people and inspired them to move and got them to go out and vote. Per the outlet, Cuomo's concession came after the Decision Desk HQ projected the race would head to a ranked choice count. Yeah, New York has ranked choice voting. And, Anytime you have ranked choice voting, it is the most liberal person that is going to win that. Earlier Tuesday, let's see here, with 91% of the votes counted, Mamdani led with 43.5% or 428,995 votes, while Cuomo received 36.4 or 358,740 votes. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander came in third with 11.3%. So a pretty decisive win. But here's the thing. The corporate leaders, folks in the media, conservatives in New York. Now, admittedly, they're outnumbered, but they rolled over. And I agree with Charlie Gasparino when he said that they should have tried to stop Mamdani. And for a multitude of different reasons. One, that he is an avowed communist socialist. And, and here's the difference between those two. You don't think that I'm using them interchangeably. I'm not sure exactly who this Mamdani is. But in socialism, the government doesn't necessarily own the means of production. The government tells businesses what to do. In communism, the government actually owns the means of production. Now, in that soundbite that I played for you from him, later on, he goes on to explain why he wants government grocery stores and that he's got a plan to spend $60 million of New Yorkers' money to set up these government food stores. And the funny part is the guy running the podcast, and again, he's not a conservative. He is a Trump-hating liberal. But he says, that's funny because it's going to be an interesting experiment to see how fast they fail. Because everything that is tried under socialism, when you run out of other people's money, it fails. It's one of those things that seems like it would work on paper and in the halls of academia, but it doesn't work in the real world. In the real world, socialism always ends with mass death. It always does. Misery, poverty, and mass death. But let me just read to you a couple of the pieces out of this Charlie Gasparino op-ed. And I quote, "The calls began literally the minute that the Post ran a headline Monday morning that Zoran Mamdani, the noxiously anti-Israel socialist lucky sperm kid, somehow found himself polling ahead of Andrew Cuomo in the Democrat Party primary for mayor. Quote, this poll can't be right. Or is it? Was a question I kept getting from some top business types, both those located here and others who have major operations in the city. They may not be crazy about Cuomo. His sharp elbows as governor still sting. The amount of people that he killed in nursing homes during COVID certainly hasn't left their collective memory. But they fear that a loon many times worse than the incompetent comrade Bill de Blasio is on the verge of running America's Gotham City. Yes, I explained. Mamdani might win, and if he does, you only have yourself to blame. The simple fact is that the city's business community, with some exceptions, is the most politically neutered class of people that I've ever met. They occupy the Wall Street C-suites. They own real estate empires and a lot more, so they have money, and tons of it. They should have power since they have lobbyists and campaign cash to spread around and influence politicians. And yet, they have done nothing as the Democrat Party moves so far to the left that the epicenter of finance and free markets could be on the verge of a Trotskyite takeover. And it is. Mamdani is an avowed socialist/communist. Now, there were exceptions, though. New York-based hedge fund titan Bill Ackman is a true patriot for standing up to the leftward drift of his former party, voting for President Trump and using social media to address these things. The great entrepreneur and businessman, John Katzmid, I can't pronounce his name, it begins with a C, is a New Yorker, having made his fortune here. Now, I asked John why he's such an anomaly, and his response was what you might expect from a self-made man born in Greece and who spent his working youth at a family grocery store in West Harlem. Quote, "These guys never learned to be tough. We raised a lot of people in 20 years that tiptoe through the tulips." So Trumpism is ascendant for now, but certainly not on a state level. If Mamdani wins, he is the mayor, and there is a fairly large regulatory apparatus that he controls. Better to acquiesce and hope for the best, I guess some of them said. But here was an alternative for the business guys. Why didn't every major bank and real estate firm in this city run ads against Mamdani? It's because they have to be in line with the ruling political class in New York. And by the way, how bad could this mom dummy guy be? I mean, we got through Bill de Blasio and all of us still made money. But really, I mean, there's not too much that a socialist could do except for, I don't know, setting up government grocery stores and spending your money like it runs through a faucet that never has an off, like the off valve. But the point is that it's going to be taxpayer-funded gender reassignment surgery. He's going to decriminalize nearly every crime. He's going to globalize the intifada, which he absolutely said he was going to do. He is absolutely anti-Israel and a whole host of other things. But New Yorkers didn't do their homework. They sat home, they didn't get in the political game, and they did what New Yorkers always do, go along with the Democrat Party. But the problem here, my friends, is when people who have the means don't engage, when they have a vested interest in the political game and they do nothing, they only have themselves to blame. And they don't get to sit back this time and say, oh, man, we tried for that other guy, but, the socialist won. They don't have that choice now. Now they're going to have to say, we sat by and did nothing, and we let a socialist become the mayor. A socialist that has some pretty radical views, as I played for you. But the point is, my point here, my friends, is folks that have the means to affect elections, that have the means to campaign and to donate money to good conservative candidates, ought to. There's no reason why you shouldn't, because the pro-business, pro-growth policies of most of the Republican Party and the conservative wing of the Republican Party are the ones that are interested in everybody's prosperity. We're not about picking winners and losers and awarding prizes to our friends. The truth is that everybody should prosper. And if big businesses and folks that have the mean don't want to get in the game, then they only have themselves to blame, and you'll be the folks that are responsible for electing people like Elisa Campbell and Julie Jarvis and Ogden Driscoll and Kangaroo Mike Giroux. It's amazing to me that he is still in office. I mean, he represents the richest county in America. And he still gets elected, even though he is a radical socialist. It's absolutely incredible to me. And, Ken, you, Agent 29, you are with these people a lot when you're not doing your job here at the Cowboy State Politics. I mean, am I wrong?
Let me say this about that. When you meet Ogden Driscoll, he comes across as a very friendly, good old boy.
Oh, he's a good old boy.
Yeah,
right.
whatever discussion is about, he can jump right in there and blend with the crowd. Ditto Mike Giroux, some of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. It's only in being able to watch what they do, not what they say, that you begin to realize something here is amiss. And, in fairness, there's a pretty good chance that Mike Giroux represents a lot of the people that put him there. That's the scary thing, is that there are that many people in Wyoming that actually think that way.
Absolutely. Well, in any case, make sure you take notes on what happens in New York, because I'm sure it's going to make for some fantastic political analysis. Classic capitalism versus socialism, and we got it right here in America. We've got about 15 minutes left in the program, and there's two stories, excuse me, that I wanted to cover before we say so long for today's Wednesday. And the first one is from The Blaze. President Trump scored a massive victory at the U.S. Supreme Court, and it's amazing. A lot of these liberal folks, especially those in the media, say that you conservatives, you don't really have any idea how the Constitution works, and a lot of things you're doing, they're unconstitutional. From The Blaze, an article entitled "Massive SCOTUS Victory for Trump Over Dissent from Liberal Justices on Deporting Illegals to Non-Origin Countries." And I quote, "The U.S. Supreme Court temporarily granted the Trump administration a victory in the president's efforts to deport millions of illegal aliens from the U.S. In a 6-3 ruling, the highest court in the land said that the administration could restart deportations of illegal aliens to countries that were not their origin. The 3 liberal justices dissented. Judge Murphy had also said that the Democrat needed to give migrants written notice. All right, so that's the previous judge, right? The emergency request against the lower court order had been issued by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who referred it to the full court. Jackson issued a scathing dissent after the ruling. The Trump administration had argued that Judge Brian Murphy of the District Court in Massachusetts had overreached the court's authority when he ruled that the government needed to provide migrants with an opportunity to challenge deportation on the basis that they might be tortured if they were sent to the other country. Judge Murphy had also said the government needed to give migrants written notice about where they were going to. But not when it got to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court granted the temporary stay, and now the Trump administration is free to deport people who don't belong here to some other country. You don't belong here. Get the heck out, go somewhere else. Let them deal with you. And I mean, it still amazes me how many liberals think that conservatives don't know the Constitution. I mean, you ever get that? You know, it's I always say that if you need a copy of the Constitution, ask a legislator. They've probably got a brand new one in their pocket that has never been opened. Same thing with the U.S. Constitution. Most liberals spend their time trying to destroy and get around the Constitution. Most of them don't read it. But here's another one. Now, Ken, have you noticed that? And this is going to come out sounding a little bit condescending, but I don't mean it that way, and I'll explain.
Most things you say sound a little condescending.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of my charm.
Yeah, I told David the other day, I said, you seem a little narrow-minded, and he said, I can afford to be. I'm right.
So have you noticed, Ken, that everybody's got a podcast? I mean, and let me just say this at the outset. I am for everybody having a podcast. In fact, I think people like Amy Edmonds should produce more shows. And I think that people like Chuck Todd should absolutely produce more content so that we can see how absolutely insane he actually is. The more voices, the better.
We kind of have a rule here that we've developed in both your podcast, my podcast. You got somebody on that you disagree with, you give them all the time to talk.
Oh, yeah.
And the more they talk, the more rope they get out there, and the easier it is to hang them. And that's why we like the idea of, hey, by all means, get out there. If you've got hours and hours and hours of you pontificating out there, we can begin to pick you apart. And the same thing goes for us. I mean, you and I, especially you, have hours and hours and hours of our opinions out there. And so it sometimes amazes me when people actually call and ask, well, what do you think about this?
Well, I don't know. There's
I guess you haven't been listening, have you?
There's over 850 episodes that you could listen to. But anyway, what I'm getting at here is the more voices, the better. And I absolutely believe in the free marketplace of ideas, where the best ideas rise to the top, and then the real crappy ones, like Amy Edmonds and Gail Simmons and Chuck Todd, they kind of go to the bottom. Well, so Chuck Todd, he no longer works for NBC News, thankfully. He got canned, and now he has his own show. And, you know, it's with a lot of these shows, these people are supposed to be professionals. Let me just give you an example. This is what shows up on Chuck Todd's podcast. I mean, you can see up his nose, and I mean, it's almost like he's still sitting at the NBC News desk trying to tell you what the weather is because his nose is so high in the air.
He does have a bobblehead, though, there.
He does have a bobblehead.
We have two.
Yes, we have two in the studio, and both of them are Agent 29. All right, get this off the screen. I can't stand looking at these people anymore. Stop. There. See? Okay, fine. It's gone. But anyway, that is Chuck Todd, and that idiot that wrote the book about Biden, the tell-all book, the one that everybody should just read. And it's well, let me just read you the article from the Daily Caller, or at least part of it. Former NBC News chief political analyst Chuck Todd, during a Monday podcast, wondered whether former President Joe Biden's decades-long image as a devoted family man may have been a myth. I don't know. I mean, he's got a son that's a drug addict that broke just about every law, and I mean, it's.
If my family had as much dirt on me as they had on Joe, I'd be a family man like that.
Yeah. Well, none of them really actually cared about him. And I think that the proof of that is they allowed him to go on national television and wander around like the geriatric Alzheimer's patient that he absolutely is being. But anyway, he had a guest on, Jake Tapper, and they were talking about Biden's family life. And so let's see here. Go ahead and play cut number 5. This is incredible.
So for me, the original sin was running in the first place. Oh, well, yes, I've heard you talk about this because his family was in crisis. Right, because his daughter and his son were addicted to drugs. When I followed that Hunter Biden trial.
He was on it.
I read every single transcript. Yeah. I read all of the testimony. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe to this day, Jake, that Hunter Biden, that Joe Biden did this to his kids.
So somebody close to the family
can't believe that he did it.
Somebody close to the family told us, and this is in the book, that everybody knows, some of the family aphorisms like, my word is a Biden, or, et cetera, et cetera. A lesser known Biden family saying is, don't call a fat person fat. And by that, they mean it's not about politeness. It's about hiding truths, not acknowledging truths. And this person close to the family suggested that there are lots of truths that the family did not want to face up to. 1, Bo is dying. 2, Hunter is addicted to drugs.
All right,
3,
I can't take
Joe
this
Biden
anymore.
cares about.
I mean, these two who sat on news desks for decades before, during, and for a short time after the Biden administration, that they will go on their dumb podcast, whatever they call it, and claim that nobody knew that Biden was this bad off, and that I'm going to write a book called Original Sin about how they abused Joe Biden, is absolutely disingenuous. Both of them are chronic liars.
They're also capitalists.
They are capitalists.
Just pointing that out.
Oh boy, are they ever. And the people who are actually buying that book is evidence of their capitalist tendencies, yet none of them are really actually in favor of the left. They just like getting the money. So absolutely incredible. And, it's I would love to know the statistics on that podcast. Mine, you can see pretty much about the only thing you can't see is exactly who is listening and where. But I can, I get a whole bunch of analytics about the show, which episodes are popular, which times, how many people stay on, how much do they listen to the episode. I mean, I get all of it. And I would love to know the analytics behind that podcast. I mean, I bet it would be fascinating. And you would think that national political figures or, media political figures like Chuck Todd and like Jake Tapper would have a huge following. You would think that. But I bet it's actually a pretty low number by comparison. And the reason for that, and Rush always said that liberal talk radio never works. And the reason for that is liberal ideas don't work in the real world. And once you voice them, I mean, how many hours of sound bites could we come up with of Democrats saying stupid stuff on the floor of the House or the Senate? And when it comes out of their mouth, I mean, I always cock my head and be like, what did I just hear? Because it's so insane. Well, that's one of the reasons why liberal talk radio and liberal podcasts really don't work. I mean, you have your exceptions, like the Breakfast Club, Charlemagne the God. I mean, he's got a big podcast. But look at Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan has been kind of one of these go with the wind type of fellows. He wasn't exactly all that conservative, though, he didn't really delve too much into politics. But now that Trumpy's back in, there's a marked difference between the subjects that he chooses. So anyway, I mean, nobody should listen to Chuck Todd's podcast. Nobody should pay any attention to it. I mean, it's just another example.
I think they should listen if they can stand it for a little bit.
You can't.
Just to get yourself grounded again.
I can't listen to it. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. So let's see here. 5 minutes left. Let's do a little sports. I haven't been able to talk about baseball for a while, not because I don't want to, not because there aren't things to talk about with my Texas Rangers. It's just they've been so darn depressing lately. I mean, they can't seem to break 500.
Oh, you know nothing about depression till you've been a Rockies fan.
Yeah, well, I've been trying to convince you that that's probably not a good choice. Are the Rockies still in the worst team in baseball?
They are. They've had little glimpses of success. To tell you the truth, for the last 10 days, I haven't had a chance to catch up on them. But they actually won something like 4 games in a row at one point.
Oh, they did. Yeah. That's a heck of a winning streak for them. Let's see here. The Rockies are 18-61. 18-61. I mean, I don't know. It's got to be still a record. I mean, they have to be the worst team in in America in history.
They're on pace to be historically the worst.
All right, so we're kind of seeing sort of and this always happens with sportscasters, but they try to dip their toe in the political realm, in the political discussion, and a lot of times they probably should just stay with what they know. Let's talk about sports. Don't talk about politics, because do what you're good at. I happen to be good at doing my podcast, and my political analysis is second to none, and so that's why I do what I do. I'm not the sports aficionado, though I do have a pretty deep knowledge of baseball, but I do what I'm good at. ESPN broadcasters should do what they're good at. Well, there was an ESPN broadcaster who said she should rephrase herself after saying that this is what makes America great. Now, before I play the soundbite, let me give you the setup here. During ESPN's broadcast of the Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces at a WNBA game on Sunday, analyst Rebecca Lobo apologized for commenting that disagreement is what makes America great, apparently withdrawing her comment because it sounds too close to President Donald Trump's well-known slogan. The exchange occurred late in the game as Lobo weighed in on a foul call she disagreed with. They disagree with you, play-by-play announcer Pam Ward told her. They do, and I disagree with them. And that's fine. That's what makes America great, right, Pam? Go ahead and play the soundbite. It's cut number 6.
So they disagree with you. They do, and I disagree with them, and that's fine. That's what makes America great, right, Pam Ward?
Listen to the long pause.
I should rephrase that. Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I did think
opinion are perfectly
yes,
fine.
That's a better way to say it. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. And she apologizes for it. So even, and first of all, they should just stick with sports. I don't even know if they're that great at sports broadcasting, but they should just stick with what they know. And obviously they don't know politics, and obviously they don't really care about the country that is making them fabulously wealthy. Now, granted, they're WNBA announcers, so they're probably not, raking in the amount of money that you would be if you're, an NBA announcer. But still, do what you're good at. Stay the heck out of things that you don't know what the heck you're talking about, and then you expose exactly where you're at, and that is an America-hating, socialist that doesn't want to even say the phrase "Make America Great Again." And I fundamentally I don't understand why the Democrats have such a hard time with that phrase. I don't get it. I mean, that is something that everybody should be, absolutely in favor of. Yes, I want to make America great again. I mean, I want to make us more powerful, more prosperous. I want everybody to make a boatload of money, namely me. Well, for the rest of the week, I want to give you kind of a roadmap of where we're going. Tomorrow on the live program, for probably an hour, we have Representative Tom Kelly that's going to join us at 9 o'clock. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Usually with Tom, he doesn't even know what he's going to talk about. And so we'll have him in the studio for the hour tomorrow.
Yeah, Tom just has this little key in his back, and all you got to do is
kind of just wind it up.
Give it a little twist and sit back.
Yeah. So Tom Kelly will be here for tomorrow's show. Also, I'm thinking probably on Friday, we're going to play an interview with Representative Taylor Haynes, talk about all this land swap and, why maybe we ought to see if we can kick the feds out of Wyoming. I mean, I don't know if he still is. It's been a while since I talked to him. So anyway, we're going to have an interview with Taylor on Friday. So lots coming on Cowboy State Politics. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. See you tomorrow.